Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast on the channel Speak and Feel English, where we explore ideas that shape the way we think, work, and live. Today's conversation is especially important because it touches something that is already changing how we build our careers, how we learn new skills, and even how we define success. We are talking about artificial intelligence and its impact on your career. Ethan, I feel like this topic brings both excitement and fear at the same time.
Absolutely, Mia. Artificial intelligence is one of those rare technological shifts that doesn't just improve a process, but completely transforms entire industries. Some people see it as a powerful assistant that can boost productivity, while others see it as a threat that might replace jobs. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between, and understanding that balance is what can truly help someone build a strong and future-proof career.
That is such an important point. I think the biggest mistake people make is reacting emotionally instead of strategically. When they hear about AI, they either panic and think their job is at risk, or they ignore it completely and assume it does not apply to them. But in reality, AI is already present in so many tools we use daily, whether we realize it or not.
Exactly. And what makes this shift different from previous technological changes is the speed. Earlier, industries had years or even decades to adapt, but now the pace is incredibly fast. New tools are emerging almost every month, and companies are adopting them because they increase efficiency, reduce costs, and improve decision-making. So the question is no longer whether AI will impact your career, but how you're going to respond to it.
Let's start by breaking that down. When we say AI is affecting careers, what does that actually mean for someone listening to this right now? Because it can sound very abstract.
That is a great place to begin. At its core, AI is about automation and augmentation. Automation means certain repetitive tasks are handled by machines, which reduces the need for manual effort. Augmentation, on the other hand, means AI enhances your abilities, allowing you to do more in less time and with better accuracy. So instead of thinking that AI will simply replace jobs, it is more accurate to say it will change the nature of work.
That distinction is so important because it shifts the mindset from fear to adaptation. If your role involves repetitive, predictable tasks, then yes, there is a higher chance that AI tools might take over those tasks. But if your role involves creativity, critical thinking, communication, or decision making, then AI becomes more of a partner than a replacement.
Right. And even within jobs that seem highly technical or creative, AI is still influencing the workflow. For example, writers now use AI to brainstorm ideas or refine drafts. Designers use it to generate visual concepts, and analysts use it to process large datasets much faster than before. So the real competitive advantage is not avoiding AI, but learning how to use it effectively.
And that brings us to a very practical question. How should someone start preparing for this shift? Because the idea of learning AI can feel overwhelming, especially for someone who is not from a technical background.
That is a very common concern, but the good news is that you do not need to become a programmer or an AI engineer to benefit from it. The first step is awareness. Understand what tools are being used in your industry. The second step is experimentation. Try those tools, explore their capabilities, and see how they can fit into your daily work. And the third step is integration. Once you understand how a tool helps you, make it part of your workflow.
I like how you broke that down into simple steps because it makes the process feel much more manageable. And I think another important aspect is mindset. People who are open to learning and adapting will always have an advantage over those who resist change.
That is absolutely true. In fact, if we look at history, every major technological advancement has created new opportunities while making some roles obsolete. But the people who succeeded were the ones who evolved with the change. The same principle applies here. AI is not just a tool, it's a shift in how work gets done.
And I think we also need to talk about the emotional side of this transition, because even if someone understands logically that AI can help them, there is still a sense of uncertainty. People worry about job security, relevance, and whether they will be able to keep up.
That is completely valid. Change always brings uncertainty, but instead of focusing on what you might lose, it's more productive to focus on what you can gain. AI can free up your time from routine tasks, allowing you to focus on higher value work. It can help you learn faster, make better decisions, and even open up entirely new career paths that didn't exist before.
That is such a powerful way to look at it. Instead of seeing AI as something that takes away, we can see it as something that expands possibilities. But at the same time, we can't ignore the fact that certain roles will change significantly, and people will need to reskill.
Yes, and that's where continuous learning becomes essential. The idea of learning once and relying on that knowledge for your entire career is no longer realistic. Today, the most valuable skill is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And AI is actually making that easier by providing personalized learning tools and instant access to information.
We talked about how artificial intelligence is changing the nature of work and why adapting to it is so important. Now I think it would be useful to go deeper into how exactly jobs are being affected. Because when people hear that AI is transforming careers, the first thing they wonder is whether their specific job is safe or at risk.
That is a very natural concern, and the honest answer is that almost every job will be affected in some way, but not necessarily in a negative way. The impact really depends on the type of tasks involved in that role. Jobs that are highly repetitive, predictable, and rule-based are more likely to be automated. But even in those cases, it is not always about complete replacement. Often it is about reducing the manual workload.
So instead of thinking in terms of entire jobs disappearing, it is more accurate to think in terms of tasks within jobs evolving. That feels like a more realistic way to understand it.
Exactly. For example, in administrative roles, AI can handle scheduling, data entry, and basic communication tasks. But that does not eliminate the need for a person. It simply allows that person to focus on more strategic responsibilities, like coordination, decision-making, and relationship management. The role becomes more valuable, not less.
That is actually quite encouraging. It means that instead of competing with AI, people can shift toward tasks that require human judgment and creativity. But this also means that the skill set required for many jobs is changing.
Yes, and that is one of the most important points in this entire discussion. The demand is gradually moving away from routine skills and toward what we can call human-centered skills. These include critical thinking, problem solving, communication, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. These are areas where humans still have a strong advantage.
And I think what makes those skills even more important now is that AI can provide information, but it cannot always interpret context the way humans do. It cannot fully understand emotions, cultural nuances, or complex human behavior.
That is absolutely right. AI can analyze patterns and generate outputs, but it does not have real understanding or experience. So people who can combine AI tools with human insight will be the ones who stand out. It is no longer about what you know, but how effectively you can use tools to apply that knowledge.
That changes the definition of expertise in a very interesting way. Earlier, being an expert meant having deep knowledge in a specific area, but now it also means knowing how to use AI tools to enhance your work.
Exactly. And this is where a lot of new opportunities are emerging. We are already seeing new roles that did not exist a few years ago, such as AI trainers, prompt specialists, automation consultants, and data interpreters. These roles are not always highly technical, but they require an understanding of how AI systems work and how to guide them effectively.
That is fascinating because it shows that AI is not just replacing roles, but also creating entirely new ones. And for someone who is willing to learn, this could actually open up more career paths than before.
Yes, and another important shift is the idea of productivity. With AI tools, one person can now do the work that previously required a team. This means that individuals who learn to use these tools effectively can achieve much more in less time. But it also means that expectations may increase.
That is an important point. Higher productivity can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives you an advantage, but on the other hand, it raises the standard for performance. So staying relevant requires continuous improvement.
Absolutely. And that is why adaptability is becoming one of the most valuable traits in any career. The ability to quickly learn new tools, adjust to new workflows, and stay updated with industry trends can make a huge difference. Those who resist change may find it difficult to keep up.
I also think it's important to address the fear that AI might make certain skills useless. For example, if AI can write, design, or analyze data, people might feel that their expertise is no longer valuable.
That fear is understandable, but it is not entirely accurate. AI can assist in those areas, but it still requires human direction. For instance, an AI tool can generate a piece of content, but it takes human judgment to decide whether it is appropriate, accurate, and aligned with the intended message. So the role of the professional shifts from doing everything manually to guiding and refining the output.
So, in a way, the focus moves from execution to supervision and strategy. That sounds like a more advanced and impactful role.
Exactly. And people who understand this shift early can position themselves ahead of others. Instead of spending time on repetitive tasks, they can focus on higher level thinking, creativity, and innovation. This not only improves their career prospects, but also makes their work more meaningful.
That is a great way to look at it. It turns what might seem like a threat into an opportunity for growth. But it also comes with responsibility. People need to take initiative and actively upgrade their skills.
Yes, because waiting for change to happen and then reacting to it is not the best strategy. The better approach is to anticipate change and prepare for it. Learn about the tools in your field, understand how they are being used, and start experimenting with them. Even small steps can make a big difference over time.
Now, I think the next logical step is to talk about how someone can actually adapt to this change in a practical and structured way. Because understanding the problem is one thing, but taking action is what really makes a difference.
You are absolutely right, Mia. Awareness without action does not lead to growth. When it comes to adapting to AI in your career, the first and most important step is to take ownership of your learning. You cannot rely only on formal education or your workplace to keep you updated. The responsibility now lies with the individual to stay relevant.
That is a strong point. The idea of self-driven learning has become essential. But for many people, the challenge is knowing where to start. There is so much information available that it can feel overwhelming.
That is true, and that is why it is important to keep things simple in the beginning. Instead of trying to learn everything about AI, focus on what is directly relevant to your field. Identify the tools that are commonly used in your industry and start exploring them. Even spending a small amount of time each day can build a strong foundation over time.
So it is more about consistency than intensity. You do not need to master everything overnight, but you do need to stay engaged with the learning process.
Exactly. And another key aspect is developing what we can call AI literacy. This doesn't mean becoming highly technical, but it does mean understanding what AI can and cannot do. When you understand its strengths and limitations, you can use it more effectively and avoid unrealistic expectations.
That is very important because sometimes people either overestimate AI or underestimate it. Both can be harmful. Overestimating it can lead to blind trust, while underestimating it can lead to missed opportunities.
Absolutely. Balance is key. And along with technical awareness, people should also focus on strengthening their core human skills. As we discussed earlier, skills like communication, creativity, and critical thinking are becoming more valuable. These are the areas where AI cannot fully replace human capability.
I also think adaptability plays a huge role here. The willingness to step out of your comfort zone and try new tools or methods can make a significant difference because change is not going to slow down.
That is correct. In fact, adaptability is what allows you to turn uncertainty into opportunity. Instead of seeing a new tool as a challenge, you start seeing it as a chance to improve your efficiency and expand your capabilities. This mindset shift is very powerful.
And what about people who feel like they are already behind? Maybe they have been working in the same way for years, and now suddenly everything is changing. How should they approach this situation?
That is a very real concern, and the first thing they need to understand is that it is never too late to start. The pace of change might be fast, but the learning curve is manageable if you take it step by step. Start with basic tools, build confidence, and gradually move to more advanced applications. Progress, even if it is slow, is still progress.
That is reassuring because it removes the pressure of having to catch up instantly. Instead, it encourages a steady and sustainable approach.
Exactly. And another practical strategy is to learn by doing. Instead of only watching tutorials or reading about AI, try to apply it in your daily tasks. Whether it's writing, organizing information, or solving problems, using AI in real situations helps you understand its value much better.
So, the key idea is integration. Learning becomes more effective when it is connected to real work rather than just theory.
Yes, and this approach also builds confidence. The more you use these tools, the more comfortable you become, and the easier it is to adapt to new ones in the future. Over time, this creates a strong foundation that makes your career more resilient. So far, our conversation has focused a lot on the opportunities and advantages that artificial intelligence brings to careers. But I think it is equally important to talk about the challenges and risks, because every major shift comes with its own set of concerns. If people are going to use AI effectively, they also need to understand its limitations and potential downsides. I completely agree. While AI offers incredible benefits, it is not perfect, and relying on it without critical thinking can create problems. One of the biggest risks is overdependence. When people start trusting AI outputs without verifying them, it can lead to errors, misinformation, and poor decision making. That is a serious concern, especially in fields where accuracy is crucial. If someone blindly follows AI-generated information without checking it, the consequences can be significant. So, in a way, the responsibility on individuals actually increases. Exactly. AI should be seen as a tool, not a final authority. It can assist you, but it cannot replace your judgment. This is why critical thinking becomes even more important in an AI-driven world. You need to question the output, validate the information, and ensure it aligns with reality. Another challenge that often comes up is bias in AI systems. Since AI is trained on data, it can sometimes reflect the biases present in that data. This can lead to unfair or inaccurate outcomes. That is a very important point. Bias in AI is a well-known issue, and it highlights the need for human oversight. People using AI tools must be aware that the results may not always be neutral or objective. Recognizing this limitation allows you to use AI more responsibly and make better decisions. And then there's the issue of privacy. With AI tools collecting and processing large amounts of data, people are becoming more concerned about how their information is being used. Yes, data privacy is a major concern. Many AI systems rely on user data to improve their performance, but this also raises questions about security and confidentiality. Professionals need to be cautious about what kind of information they share with these tools, especially when dealing with sensitive or personal data. That makes sense. Being aware of these risks helps people use AI more carefully rather than blindly trusting it. But there is also another dimension to this discussion, which is the ethical use of AI in the workplace. Absolutely. Ethics play a critical role here. For example, using AI to generate work and presenting it as entirely your own without transparency can raise ethical questions. Similarly, relying on AI to make decisions that affect other people without proper oversight can also be problematic.
So it's not just about what AI can do, but also about what it should do. And individuals have a responsibility to use these tools in a fair and responsible manner.
Exactly. Ethical awareness ensures that AI is used to enhance work rather than compromise integrity. It also builds trust, which is essential in any professional environment. Employers and clients need to know that the work being delivered is reliable and ethically produced.
I also think we should touch on the psychological impact of AI on careers. Some people feel increased pressure because of rising expectations, while others feel uncertain about their future. This can affect confidence and motivation.
That is a very real challenge. When technology evolves rapidly, it can create a sense of instability. People may feel like they are constantly trying to catch up. But this is where mindset becomes very important. Instead of viewing change as a threat, it can be seen as an opportunity to grow and improve.
That shift in perspective can make a huge difference. If you see AI as something that is working against you, it creates fear. But if you see it as something that you can learn and use, it creates confidence.
Exactly. And building that confidence takes time and experience. The more you engage with AI tools, the more you understand their strengths and limitations, and the less intimidating they become. Over time, this reduces uncertainty and increases your ability to adapt.
As we come to the final part of our conversation, I think it is important to look ahead and talk about the future. We have discussed how artificial intelligence is already shaping careers, the skills required to adapt, and even the challenges that come with it. But what does the future really look like for someone who is building their career in this rapidly changing environment?
That is a great way to conclude this discussion. If we look at the direction things are moving in, it is clear that AI will continue to become more integrated into everyday work. It will not remain a separate tool that only certain industries use. Instead, it will become a standard part of workflows across almost every field. Just like using a computer or the internet is now considered basic, working with AI will become a normal expectation.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that also means the gap between people who adapt and those who do not will become even more noticeable. Those who embrace AI will likely move forward faster, while those who resist it may find themselves struggling to stay relevant.
Exactly. And that is why it is so important to take action early. The earlier you start understanding and using AI, the more comfortable you will become with it. Over time, this comfort turns into confidence, and that confidence allows you to take on more complex challenges and opportunities.
I also feel that the concept of a career itself is evolving. Earlier, people would choose a single path and follow it for many years, but now, with technology changing so quickly, careers are becoming more flexible and dynamic.
That is absolutely true. The idea of having one fixed role for an entire career is gradually fading. Instead, people are moving toward a more fluid approach where they continuously learn new skills, explore different opportunities, and adapt to changing demands. AI is playing a major role in enabling this flexibility.
And in a way, that can be empowering. It gives people the chance to reinvent themselves, try new things, and build a career that evolves over time rather than staying the same.
Yes, and another important aspect of the future is collaboration. Not just collaboration between people, but collaboration between humans and AI systems. The most successful professionals will be those who know how to combine human creativity with the efficiency of AI.
That combination sounds very powerful. It's not about replacing human effort, but about enhancing it. And when used correctly, it can lead to better results and more meaningful work.
Exactly. And I think it is also worth mentioning that while AI will continue to advance, human qualities will remain essential. Skills like empathy, leadership, communication, and ethical decision-making cannot be fully automated. These will continue to define great professionals, regardless of how advanced technology becomes.
So, in a way, the future is not just about becoming more technical, but also about becoming more human in how we approach work and relationships.
That is a very insightful way to put it. Technology may change the tools we use, but it does not change the core of what makes work meaningful. People still value trust, creativity, and genuine connection, and those are things that only humans can truly provide.
If someone listening to this conversation is still unsure about where to begin, what would be your final advice to them?
I would say start small, but start now. Do not wait for the perfect moment or feel like you need to know everything before you begin. Explore one tool, learn one new skill, or improve one aspect of your work using AI. Over time, these small steps will build into significant progress.
That is a very practical and encouraging message. It removes the pressure of doing everything at once and focuses on consistent growth.
Exactly, because in the end, success in this new era is not about perfection, but about progress. It's about staying curious, staying adaptable, and being willing to learn continuously.
I think that is the perfect note to end on. Today's discussion has shown that artificial intelligence is not just a challenge, but also a powerful opportunity. It's up to each individual to decide how they want to approach it.
Absolutely. The future of your career is not determined by AI itself, but by how you choose to respond to it.
Thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of this conversation. If you found this discussion helpful and want to explore more topics like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel Speak and Feel English for more podcasts and insights that help you grow and succeed.